Welcome back to the Unpack Mindset, folks. I'm Jesse, your host. I got a question for you. You ever notice how it's always the worst people in this world that somehow feel like they were born to lead us? And the reason I'm asking this question to you, to my listeners, do you find yourself lost? Or you're at a point where you just feel like giving up, right? You're depressed, you're sad. Have you ever asked yourself this question? Is the person that's giving me advice, does he live in a world that doesn't hit back? I want you to think about that one. Is the person that's giving you advice, that person, does he live in a world that has no repercussions? They're not used to getting burned or getting hit back. You ever notice how the people with the least world experience, somehow they walk around like they were divinely appointed, right? To guide the rest of us. It's Thomas Sowell, he spoke about this, right? He used to call it the vision of the anointed, right? Not the anointed in like the Bible or anything like that. It was more like a self-declared uh prophet, right? Like they thought they were self-declared prophets who never tested their ideas outside of their bubble, but swear they know what's best for everybody else. I feel like in today's day and age, this world is full of people who never never really tested their ideas. They've read about them, you know, they've talked about them, they've had lectures about them, but they've never really experienced the cause and effect of what they're talking about. And there's a common theme when it comes to people like this. It's like they go through life with a fixed lens, right? No zoom, no faculties that allow them to think outside their own ecosystem. Yet somehow they got your life all figured out. Let's face it, folks. Wars aren't caused by plumbers, electricians, or janitors. And what's his name? William F. Buckley Jr. He had a line that fit this perfectly, right? He said he'd rather trust the first 100 names in a phone book than a room full of self-proclaimed experts. Why? Why, you might ask? Because he believed that the people in the phone book actually live in the world they're making decisions about, right? What's scary is that the anointing isn't unique. It's not even unique to the political elites or, you know, the wealthy, as many of us would think. I remember working many days in a correctional setting, right? Being surrounded by hundreds and thousands of experts. I would hear individuals with multiple domestic abuse cases and charges giving advice on how to treat women, and individuals who were homeless for like the last 15 years giving financial advice on how to build wealth. And what I'm getting at, folks, is the world is full of people who haven't healed, and they refuse to fix their own mess, but they'll write you a whole fucking manifesto about how you should live. They'll tell you how to raise kids that they don't have, how to manage money that they never earned, how to stay calm in situations that they could never survive through in a heartbeat. It's like someone who's never been in a fight, right? Lecture you on counter striking or submission grappling. It's almost comical, right? Comical, sad. The sad part about the world today is it's almost like political ideology is becoming a universal religion, man. It's like a huge playground that never hits back. You keep voting for some bullshit and the cost of living keeps going up. Uh, gas prices keep going up. And it's almost like the world is just becoming a place where politicians have no consequences, man. The people that are telling you how to live and what to do, they got you running around, right? Like chasing your own tail. Let me tell you something about the real ones, folks. This is how I see people that are real in this world. They don't act anointed, they act accountable. That's why I believe Buckley said that he'd trust a phone book because regular people don't have the luxury of being wrong without consequences. You know, the you know, it all comes down to, the worst people give the loudest advice because they've never had to pay the price for being wrong. The best people give the quietest advice because they've lived the cost of being right too late sometimes. And that's the whole game, folks. If you could take away anything from this message, be careful who's giving you advice. Be weary of people who see the world through one lens, right? Think about think about their lived experience, think about what they've been through. Don't just go believing everything you hear. It's just one of those things that I encourage people to do. I've learned the hard way, right? I've taken advice from a lot of people, but in the end, through God's grace, I was able to make decisions that I felt made sense for me. I'm going to leave you with this, and I really want you to, think about this, and if you took anything from this, like, subscribe, share. Yeah, man. You guys have a good night, and we'll talk tomorrow.